You're listening to Inside Air, a behind-the-wire view of the Royal Air Force, its people, technology and operations.
Hi, I'm Flight Lieutenant Chris Sully, and welcome to the latest RAF Inside Air podcast. In this episode, we'll go behind the scenes at RAF Waddington as the RAF's latest remotely piloted air system, the Protector RG Mark 1, makes its maiden flight.
The time flying yet indeed will have brought us, well, it has brought us a whole bunch more evidence to go and analyse, but it's not just about what occurred on the flight, it was everything that was around it, and that's, with it being a focus on integration, that's probably slightly different to some of the other flight tests we might.
And what we've done is we've taken the crew out of the aircraft. They are still flying the aircraft by wire. It's just the wire goes to space and back. That's the easiest way to explain it.
I think the key thing to underline here, particularly for those that have had experience of Reaper and have been on Reaper previously, is that the GCS is a wholly different beast. So it's been designed by operators from the ground up.
As usual, we'll also reheat a few stories that might have slipped under your radar, and we'll be finding out who's under the hat this week with AS1 Ben Russell.
What's the best thing about your job?
Being able to develop and mentor my gunners to achieve things they would never achieve in the civilian world, and giving them means to grow as confident and capable individuals.
Remotely piloted air systems, RPAS, or as many people still call them, drones, have been operating with the RAF for a number of years. In episode 13 of Inside Air, we went behind the scenes to find out more about the humans behind the platform, who are still central to its operation. Reaper is the current RPAS system in use by the RAF. However, in November, the team based at RAF Waddington in Lincolnshire started testing its eventual replacement, the Protector RG Mark 1. Protector will mark a huge leap in ability and operational use. Amongst other things, it will be able to operate in busy, controlled airspace, something that's not currently possible. Squadron leader Daz Scales met the team at Waddington, who are putting Protector through its paces.
In November 2023, the RAF's first Protector RG Mark 1 took flight at RAF Waddington. A project already 8 years in the making, this was a significant milestone, not only for the RAF, but the UK. Working with aerospace engineering company General Atomics Aeronautical, Protector is the first UK-led, fully certified, remotely piloted air system designed and now permitted to fly in controlled airspace. The RAF has been utilising remotely piloted air systems, we call RPAS, although the term drone is often used by the media and public at large, for more than 15 years. As has always been the case with the Reaper, the RPAS aircraft are not autonomous and are still flown by a pilot, just not in the air. In fact, the RPAS enables, in many ways, a greater sense of control and perspective than a pilot would have by themselves in the cockpit. For the Royal Air Force and the UK, Reaper has been a significant success. The Reaper capability is still in demand, but it is also heavily reliant on coalition support, particularly from the US, who have no plans to certify Reaper for all controlled airspace. Protector, however, requires a significantly smaller in-theatre footprint than Reaper. Protector is a huge advancement. The RAF wanted from the offset a new RPAS platform that could operate in all airspaces, including controlled and over the UK. This is known as fully certified capability, which required Protector to comply with over 1,800 requirements to allow it to fly in controlled airspace. In real terms, this means Protector could launch from its home base at RAF Waddington and deploy directly to an operational theatre anywhere in the world. The operational requirement was to deliver RPAS platform that would provide persistence, deep strike, ISTAR and global reach. So in simple terms, Protector can deploy immediately, deliver operational effect in any airspace, at any time, anywhere. As Reaper is eventually phased out from RAF service, Protector will be able to continue the Reaper's deep strike mantra, but so much more. Inside Air was invited to RAF Waddington to see the new RAF Protector RG Mark 1 a few days after it made its maiden flight in the UK. The ground control station, known as the GCS and already used on the Reaper, has been massively updated for Protector. Now, with a crew of 3, a pilot, a sensor operator and the mission intelligence coordinator, ready to interpret data feeds and intelligence to be forwarded on for operational considerations. Protector has been in development since 2015, with 56 Squadron playing a huge part up to and including Protector's maiden flight. I caught up with 56 Squadron's officer commanding, and I began by asking him to reflect on the role of the squadron and its contribution to Protector.
So for 56, we've been doing test and evaluation for about the last 15 years since we transferred from being the F3 OCU. We've not been a flying squadron for most of that time, but in the last 6 or 7 months we've taken over that mantle of doing flight deck test and evaluation from 206 Squadron, one of our sister squadrons down at Bryce Norton. So we've been looking at flight deck test on Poseidon, on Shadow, on River Joint throughout the last year, and all that's been building towards Protector, which we knew was coming towards the end of the year. So we've got had a chance to really build our supervisory processes, our authorisation processes, our understanding of the ways of working throughout station and the air wing, really important for us to get up to speed before we got to Protector. That's been a bit of a journey for us over the last year. Air and Space Warfare Centre involvement in Protector has involved the combined test team out in the US for a number of years now. The specific effort over the last week, that culminated in what we did over the last week, has been a joint Air and Space Warfare Centre effort with the Combined Test Team, 56 Squadron, the Flying Division safety teams, and a whole bunch of other experts from the Warfare Centre. And the guys out in the US on the CTT who've been involved with GA pretty much since the start in doing the test and evaluation for UK Protector. We take on the mantle, we bring it into UK airspace. They've done all of the, does the system work as it should? We're doing the integration elements into UK airspace, and in the future we'll do some more of the operational T&E and the tactics development and further integration into UK airspace. So that's a bit of a summary, I guess, of where the Warfare Centre 56 are on that journey. But clearly the culmination of events over the last week highlight the work with Station, particularly the aerodrome operator and their teams, with the air wing, with 31 Squadron, with the camo, with a whole bunch of stakeholders at Waddington to make it work in the last week. So couldn't do it without all of those guys.
So last week was the first UK flight of Protector. How was that? How did that feel for yourself and for the squadron?
It was a great, I remarked when I was out there, it's probably the only time I've ever watched an entire sortie, with it being quite a short sortie. So beautiful day. Good to see all of the teams prepared, because it's been a lot of preparation, ready to go on the start line for when the weather was good for us to go. So yeah, excellent to see. But for us, actually, that's just a milestone on UK T1, right? UK T1 is not finished for us. The analysis is now ongoing, and the reporting will be ongoing. We'll build those lessons into the next phase of testing. So yes, a great achievement for the day. Take 2 days off for the weekend and then get on with the analysis the next week. So yeah, that's where we are.
I was chatting with one of the operators at Protector. They're saying that the aircraft, it was quite a short sortie, but the information gathered was massive. It reminded me a little bit of SpaceX launching their rocket, and fortunately your sortie lasted a little longer than the SpaceX one did. But he was saying about how the information that was gathered was massive, even for just a relatively short flight. And I suppose you'll be taking that information back to squadron or assisting the 31 Squadron with that information. Is that the case?
Yeah, and there's information across all of the stakeholders that I've already mentioned, and a lot of that was gathered before we even got airborne. So there's lots of tabletop exercises, lots of rehearsal of concept drills, lots of ground testing, which actually got us the huge part of that mountain of evidence. The time flying, yeah, indeed it has brought us a whole bunch more evidence to go and analyse. But it's not just about what occurred on the flight, it was everything that was around it, and that's, with it being a focus on integration, that's probably slightly different to some of the other flight tests we might do. It was the integration into Waddington and the local airspace that was the key part of what we were doing, rather than demonstrating a certain performance aspect of the aircraft, for example.
I think that's been a key takeaway today, is that, again, for most people, those perhaps not familiar with with aviation generally, or in particular RPAS, is that you have to kind of think to the finish, I suppose. There's so much going on more than just the airframe itself. Like you say, there's the airfield, the airspace, the actual capability, the communication. You talked about flight deck with the other platforms, and you mentioned Protector as well. I was just thinking that when we looked at the command centre, and they were saying about how the console where the pilots sit, it has been generated from the ground up from an operator's perspective. And what involvement, if any, did 56 have with that?
So it's more of what has the Air and Space Warfare Centre been involved with, and that will have been more of a combined test team perspective. So we always try and get involved as early as we can in a programme. So if you insert the test specialists at the very end and get them to mark industry's homework, for example, I'm not talking about Protector, I'm talking about generic programmes, you might not always get the product that you'd hoped for. Whereas if you embed them earlier in the design phase, so the test specialists, including aircrew and any other crew that you might need to get involved in that design, you've got a much better chance of when it comes out at the far end, it looks like what you think you asked for. And when you put the test pilots in again, they give it a clean bill of health rather than a long list of things that may need to be altered, shall we say.
Many people will think that Protector is the offspring of Reaper, or just the next generation of Reaper, and we know that it's a lot more than that. So from your perspective, in the air warfare perspective, given the involvement that the UK Squadron Warfare Centre has had with the evolution of Protector, what would you say are the key takeaways or game changers that Protector is going to offer us?
Yeah, okay, so the aircraft itself, it's going to be certified for operations in UK airspaces, which is something you could not do with Reaper. So there are tasks that, so Reaper is designed for a set task list, we can't talk about that here clearly, but Protector will be able to be used throughout the UK, throughout Europe in the future, throughout NATO airspace, wherever you want to send it, as long as we've got those certification elements sorted out for all of those stakeholders, allowing us to do tasks that Reaper might not do. And it might be that we're able to do things in the UK for other sponsors, other stakeholders, that persistence, that permanent eye in the sky that we've got with certain assets, but it's not as persistent as it will be with Protector. It's also here, it's on the doorstep. You can train with it here. We don't have to go anywhere else to go and do that. It is our system to develop. And the beauty of having the Air and Space Warfare Centre, ISTAR Test Squadron, at the same place as the operators of Protector, whether it be 54 Squadron, whether it be 31 and squadrons in the future, is that we're working hand in glove on current operations, on future operations, and all those discussions can take place about what would be great to have next. And those discussions and those ideas can turn into something tangible to deliver if we can provide the evidence through the experts at the Air and Space Warfare Centre outside of the T&E squadrons, using the analysis there, using 92 Squadron, using the guys that looked at the conceptual elements to work hand in hand with the DT to turn aspirations into reality, really. So that is an opportunity for Protector. I think it is the most complex RPAS that we've had to integrate into UK airspace, and that's a huge first step in us doing that, and without that team around it. And I've spoke specifically about the team at Waddington with the Logical Unit in the Air and Space Warfare Centre and the Air Wing, because we're all here. That's, there is a huge amount of effort gone in from wider stakeholders as well across the programme. There's been an accelerated effort into flight deck test and evaluation. That is on top of all the other great stuff that the squadron has done for the last 15 years. So the remit of the squadron at the moment is airspace battle management, so systems and sensors. So working with the guys up at Bulmer and down in AirCap as well. We've got a role in counter small UAS. So we use those ABM teams to look at how we do counters towards small RPAS. So we're talking about Protector today, but that small RPAS counter is one of our jobs. I look at all the ISTAR platforms, so that is mission systems on Shadow, Rivet Joint, P8, and we're gearing up for E7, and also Shadow Mark II. And we also look at what's really important about all of those platforms is the information that comes off them. So it's great that we can get them into the sky, get that persistence, make sure the sensors are working. But what do we do with that information when we get it down? So we've got a team that look at that as well. And I've also got an embryonic space test and evaluation team on the squadron as well. So the remit of the squadron is massive. And we draw on all of those expertise and learning from experience and time on the squadron to focus on a big effort like Protector.
So obviously you're working with many partners to make this together, but 31 Squadron, I suppose, would be one of the key partners that you're working with Protector. Absolutely,
yeah. So they provided all of the engineering and the ops as well for everything that we did. So the ops staff were absolutely critical in all the supervision and the authorisation process that myself and the team went through in the last few weeks. But long before that, the engineering team coming up with all of the strategies, all of the orders, the timeline, and then when it arrived and the timeline maybe didn't run 100% as they thought it might do, keeping us up to speed with what was going on, working with my test director, my leader, TMO, on Protector, to ensure that every step of the way we were in a place to have the vehicle ready to test at the right time. It goes without saying that it absolutely could not have been done without those guys. So absolutely an incredible team effort, and it's odd to have Normally a flying squadron will have its own engineering. That's something that 56 doesn't have. It's always something that will have to borrow, but it's a bit more special in this case, in that 31 Squadron have been doing it for the first time for a unique platform not long after their own reformation. So really interesting to be part of, and couldn't have done without them.
It's been another busy day for 31 Squadron, with key stakeholders looking to see Protector progressing with its integration and testing as it heads for Initial Operational Capability, or IOC. But I was able to briefly accost their officer commanding, Wing Commander Scotty McCall, for a few words.
So everyone here on 31 Squadron is really excited to be here, and for two main reasons. The first is about choice. Protector is going to be more deployable. It's also going to have capability, both in terms of as an airframe and endurance, and the sensor payloads that it carries to have more variation in the mission set. So between being more deployable and that varied mission will offer more choice to seniors and the government, but also offer more choice to our people in terms of the type of experience and the type of mission set that they'll get involved in. So that's something that we're all hugely excited about. The second is UK leadership. This is going to be the first certified RPAS of its type, and the UK is really leading the way in this, and being the first lead customer. We've seen it operate in the US, and now we've seen that first flight here at Waddington. Now we're looking forward to when we can be ready for our first operation with this. That type of experience for our people, being at the forefront of technology, being at the forefront of what this kind of capability can do, being at the forefront of what the RAF doing, has got everyone, exceptionally excited here. There are some, groups of people in there in particular. So we've got what is called an RPAS ground operator. So that's an engineer who'll be acting on behalf of the aircraft captain, doing the walk ground, doing the engine startup. So again, pushing the boundaries, changing the way we do business. Again, that kind of innovative spirit, I think, has captured everyone's imagination here. And then the last thing that I would say is about collaboration. So the first flight, that was a collaboration between 56 Squadron, who led the trial, 31 Squadron, who provided the engineering, the combined testing team, who've been based out in Poway, GA, Defence Digital, the programme team from AirCap, D&S, all those people coming together to make that happen. It's just been a fantastic working environment. And then as we look inside the squadron itself, we've got aircrew, but that's an aircrew that includes the mission intelligence coordinators, so intelligence, everyone from corporal through to squadron leader on that front. We've got the traditional aircrew, but we've got engineers, cyberspace, everyone involved in pulling that together and making that event happen. It's just, it's been a fantastic atmosphere, and I think that is the kind of foundation and the spirit we hope to go forward on.
I think one of the big things a lot of people talked about today, including yourself, sir, is about certified. That means this aircraft can fly in UK airspace and other airspaces that the Reaper, which was for quite a different specific mission. So that's quite game-changing. What additional roles could we expect then from Protector that Reaper could not do?
Because of that, it will be easier to move, deploy. It can transit through civilian airspace. If we want to move it, we can in effect take off, fly through the right classes of airspace and get to wherever that mission is. So as things appear more quickly and develop, we don't necessarily have that same planning timeline that we do currently have in terms of moving Reaper, which is fixed to what's known as a launch and recovery element. We won't have that. We'll have 8 engineers and a kind of box of magic that they'll have with them, known as the P3E that they plug into it. We'll have that, and we'll be able to go wherever it is. So that responsiveness will open up things like any kind of crisis situation, non-combatant evacuation type scenarios, perhaps scenarios in Europe. It's the flexibility, that being able to move much more easily, that will give choice, and therefore whatever mission is required at that time.
If you look at the whole pipeline of how this works, the communication, the infrastructure, the manning, the removal or the reduction at least of contractors, the increase perhaps in the blue suiters, the use of Skynet, it feels like we're truly independent, or perhaps more independent than we've ever been before when it comes to RPAS.
Yeah. Now, that's not to say that we don't have a great relationship with people like GA, and that's not to say that contractors are not important, but for the key roles that give us that flexibility, as it stands, the way we are with blue suit engineers, with the cyberspace individuals looking after the comms, we as 31 Squadron, when we get to stage that we're delivering operations, we'll have that flexibility, that independence to do what is is called on, which again makes it a hugely exciting time, and I think something that everyone is looking forward to. And it also allows us to foster a culture where, you know, every person in the squadron, regardless of trade, rank, experience, is critical to that mission. Without everyone, we can't do it. But as a combined team with those different specialities, you know, hopefully, touch wood, we'll be able to do some amazing things.
I heard today the expression from Churchill, which is, this is the end of the beginning. So as exciting as this is, and certainly a positive step forward, a game-changing position that we're in, we are just at the beginning. There's more to come, isn't there? We've got some way to go.
There is more to come. We are at a stage where the first air crew are getting trained, but they will be the instructors on 54 Squadron. We as 31 Squadron will start training our crews from early next year. So that pipeline will have to run. We'll have to build up our trained personnel strength there. There's some infrastructure work. There's some more testing to be done, you know, pushing the boundaries of this aircraft. So 56 Squadron will be back working with us from the middle of next year on that. And there's also the weapons to be tested and certified as part of the overall system. So again, a lot of work to go there to make it a complete system. So between training people, infrastructure, getting the platform in, trialled and developed, and then a little bit on kind of building up the final solution for the comms infrastructure, there is a bit of work to go. But hopefully, you know, if everything works out, or, you know, it probably won't, but if we were able to work through those challenges, then we should be in a good position a year or 15 months from now.
We finally got to see our Protector take off, circuit a few times, and land. What was that like for yourself and for the squadron, do you think?
I think it was huge. I think it really validated a lot of people's efforts. You know, as I mentioned earlier, there was a huge number of people involved in that, not just 31 Squadron, but from a 31 Squadron perspective, some of our engineers have been working on this programme for over 2 years, 2.5 years, some of them. So for them to see that moment where it takes off from here at Waddington, they see it doing that circuit, you know, I think that was the real breathe out. And as you say, it was the end of the beginning, but, you know, it was a real kind of high five moment. A lot of work ahead, but it was a fantastic day for us.
It was a good day to be introduced to Protector, the next big step in the RAF and the UK's ISTAR capability, a larger platform with a smaller support footprint, truly independent and self-reliant within the UK's defence agencies. The first flight was just the beginning, as it heads towards its initial and eventually full operational capability. Just as it was for Protector, for us, we will need to watch this space.
I'm AS1 Victoria Andrews, and this is Reheat for InsideAIR. For the very first time, an RAF C-17 has touched down in Amberley, Australia to participate in Exercise Global Dexterity. The exercise sees aircrew and ground crew seamlessly fly and maintain each other's aircraft, with opportunities to practice low-level flying amongst the mountains of Papua New Guinea. The UK, Australia and the United States all rely on the C-17 to provide strategic and tactical airlift to destinations across the world. Typhoons from RAF Coningsby-based 29 Squadron are taking part in an exercise with NATO allies and partners Spain. The 3-week exercise is part of the Tactical Leadership Programme, a long-running initiative to improve the interoperability and effectiveness of Allied air forces. The programme consists of simulator and flying phases, where participants are exposed to threats and tactics in realistic and challenging missions. Elsewhere, Royal Air Force personnel have conducted cold weather survival training within Norway's Arctic Circle, where temperatures are as low as -20 degrees. The first phase of Exercise Arctic Phoenix saw RAF regiment gunners, tactical communicators, medics, chefs, drivers and engineers deploy to Bardufoss Air Station to receive survival training from the Royal Norwegian Air Force. Further south, RAF Typhoons were conducting fighter integration training to enhance their ability to operate alongside Royal Norwegian Air Force F-35As, as well as close air support serials to practice providing air cover to units on the ground. And finally, RAF Shawbury has received the Firm and Sword of Peace Award of 2022. The award is given to units or establishments of the British Armed Forces judged to have made the most valuable contribution to humanitarian activities by establishing good and friendly relations with the inhabitants of any community at home or overseas. 2 achievements by the Shropshire Station stood out to the awarding committee. Firstly, the station's youth engagement through cadet forces and STEM outreach, and secondly, the Taking Football to Africa and Beyond appeal operated from the station since 2006, who, via Aid Through Football, collect donated items of football kit and distribute them to children and adults across the globe.
Thanks, Vic. And now it's time to find out who's under the hat with Ben.
I'm AS1 Ben Russell, and this is Under the Hat, where we get to know an aviator in less than a minute. Name you're known by.
I'm Flight Lieutenant Cammy DL.
What's your profession?
I'm an RAF Regiment officer on 603 Squadron based in Edinburgh.
What's the best thing about your job?
Being able to develop and mentor my gunners to achieve things they would never achieve in the civilian world, and giving them means to grow as confident and capable individuals.
Hardest part of your job?
The physical and mental aspect of the role is definitely the hardest part, especially finishing a tough training package and transitioning back to the civvy work role the next day.
Best location you've served?
There's lots of places to choose, but London Bridge was an experience I'll never forget.
What bit of luxury kit do you never deploy without?
I'd never go anywhere without my thermal combat slippers, as I like to call them. They're a great bit of comfort in the field when you get the chance to take the boots off.
And what's your proudest moment in the RAF?
My involvement in Her Majesty the Queen's funeral procession as the flight commander for 603 Squadron's marching contingent, followed closely behind by graduating from RAF College Cranwell when I was awarded the McRobert Sword of Honour.
Thank you, Flight Lieutenant DL. It's been our honour having you as our latest guest on Under the Hat.
That's all for this episode of Inside Air. Please give us a review, it really does help push us up the rankings. Subscribe on your favourite podcast app and join us again soon.
You've been listening to Inside Air, a behind-the-wire view of the Royal Air Force, its people, technology and operations. If you're serving in the RAF and have a story for us, please speak to your unit media and communications officer. Inside Air is written and produced for the Royal Air Force by RAF Media Reserves.